Writing has been an unexplored territory for me as a teacher of languages, since most of my experience had involved teaching little children, and it has been said in classes in my undergraduate studies that writing and little children don't go together. I remember this controversy during my undergraduate studies. The first time we were going to teach French, we were explicitly told not to write anything on the board or on any other material. This was done because children would tend to read the words as they are spelled using the rules for reading Spanish. So they would say bonjour instead of bonjour or ello instead of hello. This generated disagreement among my classmates, and several professors started saying to us, yes, make them write, or no, just don't. When I have had the opportunity to teach adults, normally as a substitute teacher at English institutes, it has not been possible to explore writing either because there is an overemphasis on speaking and because writing is seen as an activity one would do in traditional schools. However, as a learner, writing has had and still has a crucial role in my process of learning English and French. At the first stages of my learning, writing gave me the possibility of producing something in the target language while giving me some time to plan it and allowing me to learn new words and new structures. Nevertheless, my history with writing has not always been so ideal, especially in the environment where you are expected to write the most, academia. Writing, most of the time, was not a meaningful activity, but an assignment done spontaneously and almost randomly in class. During my undergraduate studies, we were required to write reports, essays, and dialogues. When giving feedback, many professors would use a set of symbols that represented spelling mistakes, word order, and basically corrections about grammar. It was normal to see those symbols with a different color all over the text. However, I always thought that they were confusing and not much of a help. In my past experience as a student, it seemed that there was a normal procedure followed by most professors when requesting a writing assignment. For example, with essays, a teacher would only say, okay, so now write an essay about this. There was no procedure explanation and no steps, just a request and an expected product. If there were doubts, it was also normal to hear phrases such as, you should already know how to write an essay. Just the term essay was complicated because it seemed that it had different definitions according to each teacher. In other occasions, extensive writing was requested on formal exams, again, only as a product to be graded. In most cases, the topic was given on the exam. There was no time for planning or structuring ideas. The writing down stage took place immediately, and there was no time for doing an edition of the final text. The most relevant aspect I remember of those exams was the fact that they were really anxiety-provoking. In this part, I would like to share a foreign language writing assignment that had a deep impact in my life. I learned a lot of English with it, and I felt I could express myself meaningfully. It is necessary to go almost 10 years to the past, back to school. The English teacher of the time asked us to write a diary where we would have to express our feelings, our fears, and our expectations. As this was the time when I was starting to become interested in English, I had no objection against doing such an exercise. However, I did not like the idea of sharing my feelings and fears with a teacher. The reason for this might be that at age 13, I was not aware of those feelings or simply did not want to explore them. Instead, I decided to move from a personal feeling-centered diary to a more event-based journal. I would write about what I would do during the day, specifically what I would do in school in each subject. It was necessary for me to use new words and experiment with them at the moment of writing a sentence. Every other week, the teacher would recollect the diaries. This activity lasted for about 2 months, until it had to be stopped. Even if I was not writing about my feelings or sharing deep personal aspects of my life, this was, for me, a meaningful activity. By having to write about the things I would do every day, I was forced to find new words to express myself. This was an easier and anxiety-free way to produce something. With all this, I saw myself learning more and it was possible to see a progress. However, this was not a perfect activity, and as it was mentioned earlier, it had to be stopped for several reasons. Firstly, just like me, most of my classmates did not want to share their deepest feelings. In this case, even though the teacher wanted her students to communicate, they did not feel comfortable with the topic. Secondly, there wasn't an explicit instruction on how to write a diary. Thirdly, the activity didn't seem to match with the level of proficiency of the entire class, making it too difficult or just impossible for many of them. At the end, only 2 or 3 students in the group would give the diaries to the teacher. I enjoyed a good amount of liberty in the diary activity, making it meaningful. I enjoyed that freedom in my writing, and I could be more creative. Creative writing is associated with writings that allow people to be in contact with imagination, originality, and spontaneity.